They humiliate democracy chasing power. But the truth, that's coming for them. Let's dive into it. Representative Jared Moskowitz just turned a GOP circus into a public flogging, quoting Ted Cruz's own words to torch their Hunter Biden hypocrisy and daring them to face the cameras.
Representative Jared Moskowitz uses Ted Cruz's own words to expose GOP's hypocrisy. What are you afraid of?
Mr. Chairman.
Moskowitz.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know, again, just to reiterate the point, but I rather than my words or my opinion, I think I'm going to quote Senator Ted Cruz, who the chairman appeared on his podcast. And in fact, just to remind the chairman of Ted's own advice to the chairman, I made a board for you, Mr. Chairman. You were on the show with Ted Cruz, in which Ted Cruz said to you, I'm going to give you some unsolicited advice. Now, by the way, Ted Cruz, right, clerked at the Supreme Court. He knows the Constitution pretty well. But you guys know who Ted Cruz is, right? He's run for president a couple times. So Ted Cruz said to you, Mr. Chairman, you should have Hunter Biden in a public hearing. He actually said his advice to you is just have him in a public hearing. And again, I go back to what is the majority so concerned, or to use some of the words of my colleagues, afraid to have Hunter Biden sit at this desk? Mr. Chairman, you control the rules. You could give everybody 10 minutes. You could give everybody 15 minutes. You could give everybody 20 minutes. You could give your side as much time. We could go on for days here, quite frankly, because, again, you control the rules, as you just showed. But the one difference that you guys object to is you object to those. You object to the cameras because you don't want the American people to hear the answers. No, you want to take the transcript and release it 6 months after you've gone out and lied about what has happened. And so, again, because the gentle lady from Georgia, I know is such an advocate for women's rights, as she mentioned, and is so concerned about grooming, and apparently we don't have any standards here anymore. Again, I just want to remind my colleagues, because, I don't want them to forget about hypocrisy, okay? I don't want them to forget about hypocrisy. But, Donald Trump was asked about Jeffrey Epstein, and when he was asked, he said, Jeffrey likes him young. Well, how did the president know that? How did he know that Jeffrey Epstein likes him young? Perhaps some people are saying he was there, since you're so concerned, right? But again, I bring this up not to make jest. I bring it
Point
up,
of order, Mr. Chairman.
I bring it up. I thought we weren't going to interrupt.
We're going to stop the clock. We did this with Ms.
Okay.
Green. State your point.
Yeah, I'm just curious about the impugning of the former president's character. That
I don't have to do that. He does that himself.
Have we basically thrown that rule out? I'm just curious, or are we going to follow that?
Would you accept a pornographic photo?
Of Bill Clinton?
Yeah, we suspended the rule to the current president, but we didn't suspend it to the former president. But.
Oh, by the way, please, so you're making the point that we can disparage Joe Biden, but not Donald Trump. Please make that point to the American people. Mm-hmm. Please.
And
Bill Clinton's not running for office.
That's my point of order, Mr. Chairman.
All right.
I'll wrap it up.
Suspended the rule on the disparaging the current president because this is a contempt proceeding with the Biden. So he's part of the investigation.
But the rule remains in place for all prior presidents,
I would say that, but in all honesty, they've broken the rule many times today.
Mr. Chairman, it doesn't apply to prior presidents.
It does not apply to former.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Listen, I won't talk about the photo and the 11 of them and the fact that he was on the plane and on the island anymore. What I will point out is the hypocrisy of today. The hypocrisy of today is you want to hold you guys break the rules by not complying with subpoenas in the last Congress, and now you're shocked. You can't believe after you broke all of that now it doesn't work. You come up here and talk about Hunter Biden's behavior, and you're so disgusted. But the guy that you all kneel to, okay, associates himself with a pedophile. But remember, I get it.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chairman, that should be stricken.
I ask his words taken
A
down.
statement
That
of a
should be
fact, and it's his time.
It's a
Mr. Chairman.
fact.
I ask his words to be taken
Okay,
down.
there's a motion to strike the words.
Yeah.
Yes.
On what
Mr.
grounds? On what grounds?
To say that we associate with pedophiles.
No, he was referring to Donald Trump.
No, I said Donald Trump
The man just
associates.
said that we all kneel. I kneel to Christ. I stand for the flag.
Support?
And if you're concerned about
I'll
pornography
change my-
being
I'll
shown
change
in
my word
public,
to support,
Mr.
Mr.
Ranking Member, you might look to
No,
the
fair
library
point. No,
content
okay.
that your people
So
support.
you're referring to the kneel down. Donald Trump said that
I
someone
moved for
took the
his
knee.
words to be taken down.
And I think he withdrew
It's
that.
a motion.
I withdraw my
He
kneel.
withdrew
I
it. He withdrew that. That'll be taken from
We
the
have to accept him withdrawing it.
All right.
Accept
Everybody
it.
good? That's going to be taken
Word
from the record.
withdrawn.
Okay,
Accept.
I withdraw the kneel down. I'll use the word very much support. We okay with that? No snowflakes offended? Okay, wonderful. Anyway, back to the point, Mr. Chairman, is that I just think the American people are tired of the hypocrisy, right? They're just tired of it. Because what they've recognized is when Donald Trump does something, it's just fine. But when someone else does it, it's a crime. Time and time again. What, you think the Chinese stayed at his hotel because they didn't have another choice? You think he wanted to have the G7 at Doral because Doral is the best property in America? Come on, you guys are smarter than this. You know he was trying to make himself rich, but when Donald Trump does it, when Donald Trump does it, when Donald Trump does it, it's just fine. But when a private citizen you claim does it, it's a crime. You guys don't have any credibility. You might have credibility on the Charlie Kirk show, but you don't have any credibility with the American people anymore. You just don't. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Chair, now recognize Mr. Raskin for 5 minutes.
Thank you kindly, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Beard, just to be clear, you're with the Cato Institute, which my Republican colleagues generally love and are always quoting you and talking about you whenever we're talking about budget or fiscal affairs or so on. They don't like what you're saying about immigration today, and they certainly don't like your message, although I think they were completely stymied and flabbergasted when you said that things had improved marginally under President Biden, but had gone way south under Donald Trump. Explain why immigration policy was such a nightmare in the first Trump administration.
Well, we basically didn't have an immigration system by the end of the Trump administration. I mean, he basically banned all immigration from abroad, legal immigration from abroad, refugees down 92%, immigrant visas down 78%, non-immigrant visas down 80%. We basically didn't have an immigration system available to people at the end of the Trump administration. And if you look at what happened with convicted criminals crossing the border, the lack of focus on prioritization of convicted criminals in the interior, yes, the immigration system under the Trump administration led to a disaster. And ultimately, it took 4 years, but the Biden administration improved things significantly from the end of the Trump administration.
So the new Trump administration inherits a situation that's better in terms of unlawful crossings. What is going to be the effect of all of these executive orders at this point? It seems almost like they're calculated to produce more chaos.
Absolutely. He's trying to get rid of the legal channels by which people come into the country. He got rid of the refugee program day one. He got rid of the parole processes that allow people to enter legally on day one. He said, we're not going to do any kind of asylum, even for people who are entering the country legally. If you do that, what's the alternative? It's illegal immigration. And really, as long as we have illegal immigration, it's going to be a major touch point politically.
All right, so let's say that he actually turns the whole country into chaos by trying to deport 12 million people as he's promised. What would the economic effect of that be? And I ask because I get business people coming to my office all the time from the hotel sector, from the construction sector, from seafood, from agriculture, saying there aren't enough people to do the work now. What would happen if we deported 12 million people?
Right. Look, it would be a blow to the economy similar to the Great Recession in size, $2 trillion blow to the GDP on an annual basis. You're talking about a massive blow to the budget. The Congressional Budget Office estimates that deficits will be lower by $1 trillion as a result of the immigrant workers that are working in the United States in these industries. And look, many American workers depend on the workers that we're talking about. In construction, you have 2 million Americans who are working in specialized positions and as managers and supervisors of illegal immigrant workers who are doing the tough manual labor jobs at the low end. So there's a complementarity between the U.S. workforce and the immigrant workforce.
Well, most violent criminals are not undocumented immigrants. Most undocumented immigrants are not violent criminals. What would it do to our efforts to actually fight real violent crime and gun-based crime in America, the AR-15s, the illegal traffic in guns, if we diverted federal, state, and local law enforcement just to deporting people who've not committed any crimes at all?
Look, we already don't solve 50% of murders in the United States. 75% of sexual assaults go unsolved. If you look at property crime, it's almost like we're not trying. We need to focus on serious crimes in this country. We have a crime problem. I completely agree with that. But diverting state and local police in particular away from getting justice for victims is a terrible idea for the country. It will not produce safety.
Yeah. And do you think it's a step on behalf of law and order to release en masse violent criminals who attacked the U.S. government to interrupt the joint session of Congress and the peaceful transfer of power in America?
I think people who commit violent crime should have to serve their sentences and be punished accordingly.
And that was actually the position, I think, taken by our distinguished colleague, Mr. Jordan from Ohio, who repeatedly distinguished between violent and nonviolent offenders. I'd like to ask unanimous consent to enter in the record a CNN article in which Chairman Jordan was quoted as being hesitant about the sweeping pardons and saying that they basically should be focused on people who had committed nonviolent rather than violent offenses.
Without objection.
Finally, what should we be doing now to fix the immigration system?
Anyone could design a better legal immigration system than the one that we actually have. We need Congress to sit down and do their job and say, look, if we want people who come, who can support themselves, who can contribute to this country, there's a way to do it. It's not rocket science. You can write a law that says you have to come and be able to support yourself and contribute to the economy. We have bills that have done this in the past. We just need to pick them up and start that work again.
Thank you. Yield back.
What Moskowitz delivered here wasn't just a political jab. It was a masterclass in using the GOP's own script to expose their cowardice. He didn't have to invent a single accusation. Instead, he simply held up their own hero, Ted Cruz, and read back the senator's advice. Bring Hunter Biden into a public hearing, on camera, in the open. No selective leaks, no cherry-picked transcripts months later. Just raw testimony in front of the American people. And that's exactly what Republicans refuse to do. Why? Because their Hunter Biden obsession isn't about truth. It's about manufacturing a narrative they can control. Moskowitz nailed it. They don't want the public to hear real answers. They want to interrogate behind closed doors, misrepresent testimony to Fox News, then release a sanitized transcript long after the lies have settled into their audience's memory. Transparency would destroy the whole performance. Then Moskowitz went for the jugular. Hypocrisy. The same Republicans who foam at the mouth about Hunter Biden's alleged sins bow at the altar of Donald Trump, a man who openly bragged about knowing Jeffrey Epstein likes them young. That's not conjecture, it's on record. Yet they clutch their pearls when that fact is mentioned, demanding decorum while they themselves have spent years smearing Joe Biden with baseless accusations. It's a glaring double standard. Attack Democrats with anything, rumor, innuendo, or straight-up lies, but shield Trump from even documented associations with predators and criminals. Moskowitz called it exactly what it is. They broke congressional subpoena rules when it suited them, but now cry foul when those same tools are used against their allies. And he didn't stop there. He reminded the room and the country that Trump's corruption wasn't subtle. Hosting foreign governments at his hotels, trying to hold the G7 at his own resort, funneling taxpayer and foreign money into his properties, all clear conflicts of interest that Republicans shrugged off. Yet when a private citizen like Hunter Biden allegedly enriches himself, suddenly it's a constitutional crisis. The only consistency here is that if Trump does it, it's fine. If anyone else does, it's a crime. The second half of this hearing only made the hypocrisy more vivid. Cato Institute's David Beer, usually a darling of Republicans on fiscal issues, demolished their immigration narrative. He laid out in cold, factual detail how Trump's immigration policy was an economic and logistical disaster, slashing legal immigration channels, ignoring the real criminal threats, and creating chaos at the border. He warned that Trump's second-term promises, like mass deportations, would gut the economy and divert law enforcement from solving actual violent crimes. That testimony left the GOP with nothing but culture war soundbites. They didn't rebut the data, didn't engage with the economic reality, and certainly didn't challenge the fact that deporting millions would make us less safe. Moskowitz's earlier point hit even harder in that context. They're not serious about solving problems. They're serious about keeping the cameras off when the truth comes out. Moskowitz turned their own weapons against them, Cruz's advice, Trump's words, and their legislative record, to strip away the GOP's veneer of credibility. He exposed a party terrified of public scrutiny, addicted to selective outrage, and willing to excuse any corruption as long as it's stamped with an R. The immigration testimony that followed only reinforced his point. When faced with facts, Republicans retreat into performance politics. The real fear isn't Hunter Biden. It's that a fair, open process would reveal just how hollow their accusations really are. That's why they hide behind closed doors and talking points instead of truth. Don't let them bury this in committee transcripts. Share this takedown, call out the hypocrisy, and subscribe, because sunlight is the only cure for the GOP's fear of the truth.